again. The 11 o'clock news is on the way. It's Tuesday morning. It's the 11th of April. So we'll hear from that Chaddesden mum who found the culture shock moving from South America to Britain causes severe anxiety. I wonder if it's the other way round as well. If you choose to live abroad, are you really not prepared for the difference in the way of life? Is the culture shock difficult the other way round? If you've got your stories to share, do.
On radio, TV and mobile. This is BBC Radio Derby.
It's a little after 11:15. Good morning to you. Now, apparently, 1 in 10 of us have decided to ditch Britain to live abroad. That's more than 5.5 million people. That's quite astounding, that figure. Whilst many of us may be trying to escape the sporadic weather in search of a warmer climate, others are coming to live in the UK for reasons such as work or a relationship. And moving to a different country can be a very exciting prospect. But what many people don't know is how much of a culture shock it can be. And I guess when you first move somewhere, you think, wow, this is exciting. It feels like this adventure, a holiday. And then the reality starts to kick in. Differences in everything from language to food to just daily life in general can be quite a daunting prospect that you may not have considered. Well, one mum from Chaddesden ended up suffering from severe anxiety when she moved to the UK with her husband in 2008. Dolores Aranda is originally from South America, in fact Paraguay, but followed her heart across the Atlantic Ocean. And she's still here now, which is nice to see. And as you walk in this morning, by the way, when you walked in the studio, I thought, this is a woman who's talking to me about severe anxiety, yet you seem almost horizontal. You're Mrs. Chill, you're Mrs. Smiley, you've got the most beautiful smile. So you've obviously come through the bad times and things are great again.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invitation. It has been a very difficult journey. Not always I have been this way smiling. And actually, as you said, when I moved to the UK, I didn't take into consideration how difficult would be for me to adapt to your emotional style, to the weather, to the food, to a different language, a different way of doing things. And I didn't measure how that would impact me mentally. So I thought at the beginning when I came here that it was, wow, this is an amazing opportunity. This is fantastic. You know, I'm living in England now. I am married and now I will have my family. And I was in that mood seeing the buildings, the traveling by train, like for 3 months. But then suddenly I landed. And I realized that I didn't have a ticket to go back to my country. I didn't know anyone. My family, well, was very far away, obviously. My husband, he lived far away from his family also. I didn't have any friends. And there is when I started to experience the culture shock, like that everybody speaks. And many few, I think that most of the people who travel abroad and decide to live abroad, they don't take those things into consideration.
So, I mean, talk through some of, you said about you didn't have friends. Which, obviously, when you're going through this kind of emotional turmoil, we all tend to turn to friends closest, and however great Skype can be, or just a phone call, it's not the same, is it, as being able to hold a friend's hand, have a cuddle from someone, a reassuring cuddle. And they're miles away now, back in Paraguay, and you're here in Derby. So tell me the stuff that you were really struggling with. I mean, your English is brilliant. Was it at the time? Was that a barrier to start with?
It was very difficult because I came with the American English, and I came to live in Kent, in the southeast. The accent was different, and oh my gosh, I couldn't understand a word. But also there are so many words that the Americans use that in the English, the British English is different, like diapers. they say no, and here is different, you know.
It's nappies.
Yes. So there are a number of words, but the accent also. It took me a while to adapt to that and to understand, to be able to process. And very simple things like going to the supermarket, going to buy sugar, salt. I couldn't recognize the packaging, the colors, change it, and so I have to go all over the supermarket to buy eggs. I have to try to find my way there, and things that are very simple for me became really challenging. I started to feel claustrophobic, and I was thinking, what is this? Why I'm feeling claustrophobic? And then I realized that actually everything is closed in England. The windows, the doors, for the weather. South America instead is sunny, is hot, so our windows are open, our doors are open, our friends can come walk in the house and talk to you, you know. If you are unemployed, you have another 10 people unemployed, and you always have company to talk to. Here instead, those things are different. So imagine for someone like me coming and to develop friendship, how I could do it. I couldn't speak the language fluently. Despite that I knew about American English, it took me a while to develop the fluency in the speaking. I needed to find a job, go through the application process. Everything was online. It was not personal. In my country, you go with your CV, you give to someone, and you show your personality. And basically, we are very visual people. That is our emotional style. We sit down, is face to face. In England, everything is online. Even in 2008, you know, back in 2008, it was already that way. So for me, that was how I do it here.
And again, that would add to your isolation.
Yeah,
Because
that's the word.
you're not getting the conversation, the face to face.
No, it was. I felt completely isolated, and to make things worse, my husband was traveling a lot at that time, so I was staying alone at home. And then I started to experience panic attack. What is this? You know, this intense fear that I didn't want to get out running. I wanted to scream. I was scared of getting out of my house, and I was thinking, what is this? And I went to the GP, and he said to me, I think you are experiencing generalized anxiety disorder. And I thought, what on earth is that? And he said to me, I must refer you to a psychologist, and you will have to take antidepressants. And that was very shocking, because obviously the word antidepressant for me until then was a synonym of people really ill, you know, that couldn't cope with themselves anymore. And I didn't see myself that way. But something very strange was going on with me. I lost control of myself. I lost confidence in myself.
Were you working at the time?
No, I was. Yes, I was a consultant at that time. I was working, and I was also very ashamed from my new husband. Imagine, I just got married 3-4 months ago, and I wanted to give a good impression to him, and suddenly I was there not being able to cope with myself.
Did you tell him at first?
Yeah. I think that he understood my problem, and he was expecting it. Because in England also you speak more about mental health issues. In my country nobody speak about it. And it's very sad because obviously...
It's probably because you've got a lot more sunshine for a start. That's got to help, hasn't it, really?
No, but it's like a kind of stigma still stronger in South America about it. So many people, if they are very nervous, they think that is part of life, or that is their architectural design, you know. They don't relate to mental health issues. So I knew very little about it. And I didn't know that my anxiety would last actually 7 years, despite psychological treatment and pharmacological treatment. I got lost in it. I got completely lost. I continued working because anxiety allows you to work, allows you to be functional. But there were days of it was very difficult for me to cope. I was very nervous. I compare in my book anxiety with being in a jungle. In a jungle where you don't see things clearly, when you hear noises, you feel threats that you can't identify. It's scary. You think that you will see something, but you don't see. Everything is more in your imagination, you know. Most doctors say or define it as a constant worry, but it's beyond that. It's beyond that. Once that you experience it, it's fear. It's a constant fear, and you don't know how to deal with it. Even if you go to the psychologist and you try to understand, psychologists only explain you the psychological part. But we humans are more than that. You know, we are body, we are spirit, we are mind, we are experience traumas.
I mean, there are similarities between Paraguay and Derbyshire. See, she's not taking me seriously. Why are you laughing? You know, because obviously Paraguay is landlocked.
Yeah.
You're not surrounded by sea. Neither is Derbyshire. That's probably where the similarities end. Because you have sunshine, you have warmth, the windows and doors of houses are always open and welcoming, which you notice straight away here, under the gloom of the cloud and the cold and the rain. People's doors are shut, people's windows are shut.
No,
You
I
felt
must-
claustrophobic.
I must say actually that people from Derbyshire are cozier and warmer than the people from the southeast
Oh, of
in
course they
England.
are. Of course.
I think that was something that played in my favor when I moved in Derbyshire.
So we show more emotion
Absolutely.
than the people of Kent.
Absolutely.
Oh.
You speak more. You are more nosy.
It's true. I can't deny it. Absolutely, you're right. But there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
Because
absolutely
you find
not.
out about people, don't you? That's what I'm paid to do. I'm paid to be nosy. So, I mean, we're laughing now, and it's great because obviously there is a happy ending to your story, and you hope to help other people from your own experiences. Your anxiety became so severe that there was a very traumatic experience for you in 2009. Explain
Yes.
what happened.
Yes. Well, because I was overworking and also with a lot of stress at that time, I ended up delivering a very premature baby at 5 months and a half of pregnancy. Thanks to the technology, to the medical technology in England, my son managed to survive for 11 days. But then the doctors asked me to take the decision to switch off the ventilator. And they put the baby in my arms. And I have to say goodbye to my baby. That was very traumatic. But I thought that I managed it properly. I went back to work. And I started to look for a second baby. You know, I continued with my anxiety. I was not recovered from that. But I thought that I managed that experience until I got pregnant again in 2014. And then during that pregnancy, my trauma, that memory, reactivated. And I ended up in a cycle of stress and anxiety during that pregnancy, so worried that it might happen again, that when my baby Sophia was born, I ended up with postnatal depression. And there is when I understood how difficult it is to recover from depression. Because you are there with a psychologist trying to improve the scenario of what you experience, of what happened to you. But then I realized that the problem was deeper than that, you know, that's just changing to positive thinking. I was saying, well, why I don't want to eat? Why I don't feel taste in my mouth? Why can't sleep? Why I have this agitation in my whole body? And it was not easy to recover from that, from one Monday to the next. And I was in that situation for several months. In that time, I ended up also hospitalized. I received more medication and more psychological help. After the third treatment, it started to work. Actually, a psychiatrist started to help me. I think that I am alive now thanks to her. She just retired last year. And I realized there that the medical treatment, it does work. It does work. But
And that's the medical treatment that you were so scared to take in the first place.
Yeah.
Because it was almost having to admit to yourself, coming from a country where there's a real stigma about talking about mental health. It wasn't something that you felt you could do.
Yeah.
You didn't want to burden. I mean, your husband. How did he cope with all of this?
I realized actually that he was completely lost at the beginning. Like it happened to many relatives. He was at the end of my bed watching me, cuddling me, But beyond that, he didn't know what to do. That happened to many relatives. That's why in one chapter of my book, I dedicate to relatives, how they can help the loved one. Exactly doing what? Feeding them with what type of food, helping them to walk, because you become again like a child. You stop noticing your environment, your senses are not working, you can't process information. And for that reason also I developed the audiobook to help to people who are in that situation, because I couldn't read when I was very ill. But also I realized that beyond my medical treatment, I have to add other techniques. And there is where I learn about meditation, about the happy foods, because at the end we are the nutrients that we eat. I added the spirituality. I understood how that internal world works. What is the link between your thoughts, your emotions, your bodily sensations, the neurotransmitters in the brain, the communication between neurons, how that works. And that way, once that thanks to my doctors, that they guided me to good research and good medical books, I thought, if I would have known this from the beginning, I wouldn't have gone that deep in all this problem. And there is where I started to write my book, to give this information. Not only I am not a doctor, obviously, so I am writing from the
heart,
from a patient perspective. And after someone who experienced this and knows how hard it is. But also you need to understand that in this world we just have 30,000 days to live. If we are lucky. But that is a prediction. That is not a promise. So you better know how to enjoy this life. You better take this opportunity with both hands. You understand how your body and your mind works. You learn about neuroplasticity in the brain. That is the capacity that all human beings have, actually, to again redevelop their brain, their neural pathway inside, like the trees, in winter that they end up without leaves. The same way is the brain also with depression. It's completely dry, and you can see in a scan it's dark, it's without light, but like the spring is the neuroplasticity of the brain. In neuroscience, they know a lot about it, and it's like starting again with the neurons developing again. And you can do that knowing how to produce the happy neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, adenosine, GABA. GABA is the volume of the brain, actually, and you can produce GABA, for example, walking in the forest, listening to the music that you like, smiling with your friends, laughing.
So finding your happy place. Funny enough, we are going to talk about the kind of route to happiness, and it is something that you have to do for yourself.
Yeah.
You can't rely on other people to provide that happiness. You've got to find it yourself. It's fascinating. Your story, it's been really interesting to hear your story as well. Thank you for sharing it this morning. I know there's a lot more
It's
to
13
discuss.
hours.
But a lot of that is in the book, of course, which is called The Key to Escape from Your Mental Prison of Stress, Anxiety or Depression. It's written from the perspective of a recovered patient who you've been listening to this morning, Doraliz Aranda. Great to meet you this morning. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.